Arsenal have not given up hope of signing Bruno Guimaraes. The Merino deal is moving ever closer, and we've once again been linked with Joao, Pedro, and now Julian Alvarez once again. And as well as Eddie Nketiah's move to Marseille getting closer or getting further away, dependent on what the reports are saying. Big up you lot for tuning in, people. Again, as we know, we're currently involved in the transfer market, and I'm sure that extends to every club. And we're about 2 or 3 weeks away from the Premier League season starting, so there's a lot to do. Don't forget to hit the like button, people. Journey to 70,000 subs is alive and kicking. Give me 30 seconds. I'll share my screen with you guys, and we'll get straight into exactly what concerns our football club, people. Where is it? Why is this not happening for us? There we go, people. Apologies, 30 seconds delayed. There we go, people. Again, starting from the top, apparently breaking news: Nottingham Forest and Olympiacos owner Evangelos Marakinis, forgive me my Greek ones for the mispronunciation, wants to make Arsenal director Edu CEO of his portfolio of clubs. Now, that is what the reports are saying at this moment in time. He wants Edu to be a CEO. Now, if you're Edu, people, let me know your thoughts. If you was Edu Gaspar, would you go and depart the football club and sign for, Nottingham Forest, I assume, or the staple of clubs that their owner owns, which is obviously Nottingham Forest, Olympiacos, and a bunch of other clubs? Because when you look at it in terms of career progression, that would be a step up for Edu. But I guess if I was Edu, I'd also be thinking, me together with Mikel Arteta and everyone else, we've made Arsenal competitive again. Where in many ways there's many things to admire about the club. We've moved Arsenal in a more positive light than definitely when they've walked in. So I'm not too sure on this. And obviously, with speculation still over Mikel Arteta's future and whether he's going to stay at the club based on contract reports, and I think it's up in 2025. He hasn't signed a new deal. Who knows, people? But apparently, the owner of Nottingham Forest is hoping to poach Edu Gaspar away from Arsenal. Edu is highly thought of in the football executive space after his superb work in helping to transform things at Arsenal, sporting director. And you also got to remember he did his thing at Brazil, for Brazil. Now, personally, I think Edu is given a tough time by Arsenal fans. Everybody should be criticized and praised where appropriate, but I think he's given a tough time, and I think the bulk of that is obviously the football players. If they play good or bad, you can critique their performance. Mikel Arteta, if you win a game, we can critique your performance. You can't really critique Edu. Of course you can. We know the areas that Arsenal would love to sign. We've signed Calafiori, so left backs ticked. Central midfield, we'll get on to Merino. I'm sure everybody would like a winger, and whether it's Nico Williams, Bakayoko, Pedro Neto, the list goes on, and probably a striker to go with everything else. But I do think people are harsh on Edu personally because, we don't know the signings that he's tried to have happen. We don't know the budget he's working with. We don't know the differences he's had in our transfer strategy. And also, Arteta wanted Kai Havertz, he got that. Ramsdale, he got that. Benjamin White, he got that. David Raya, he got that. Keeping Granit Xhaka, he got that. Where for a bunch of different reasons, you might not have seen why we would address an area that seemed great. A player might have not been universally, highly thought of at Arsenal. So if the sporting director is bringing you exactly what you want, then how can you really criticize him? Nonetheless, apparently they're hoping to poach him away, people. Apparently his work appears to have earned some suitors with Brazilian outlet claiming that the Forest chief Mariakis is looking to snatch the 46-year-old away from North London. However, the Greek owner isn't looking to bring him in to steer the ship at the City ground, but rather have a much grander plan in place for the former Brazil international. It's claimed that he is looking to make Edu a sort of CEO specializing in international football across all his endeavors, which would be great. And as you know, he owns 3 clubs. He owns Olympiacos, Nottingham Forest, and Portuguese side Rio Ave. So we'll have to see. Apparently, it's reported he dreams of having Edu as his right-hand man. Now, footballing world or the fans might not keep Edu in high regards, and I have never spoken to people in the footballing world about Edu, so I don't know. But if he's highly thought after and sought after in the footballing world, there's got to be something. And I could be wrong, but did he not win an award recently for Sporting Director of the Year or something of that ilk? So I'm not sure if you believe that. But yeah, since he was hired in 2019 initially, in 2024, the club is in a much better state, people. He's obviously worked at Corinthians. as well as an advisor of the Iranian national team. I didn't know that, and was a team coordinator with the Brazilian FA people. So I have to see. No clue why the Sun is talking about Arsenal players' girlfriends and whatnot. Big up them, but I mean, you know, it is what it is in that regards. So there you have that, people. Apparently, the CEO dreams of having him. Arsenal have been linked with Joao Pedro. Now, we briefly covered this yesterday. Let me know your thoughts. Would you have him? If we was going to sign a striker from Brighton, I know his stock isn't as high as it was probably last season or the season before, but I'd rather Ivan Ferguson. Joao Pedro, I mean, he's adaptable. He could be a rotationary option. He's what, you know, in his early 20s, so it would make sense. Obviously, his statistics are not bad, but they're not groundbreaking necessarily. And as we know, Brighton are historically difficult individuals to do business with, as we saw when we had to pay 50 million for Ben White off the back of one Premier League season. You saw the fees that it took to get Caicedo and Cucurella, where Chelsea's concerned. Trossard, we did get a bit of a bargain, but we know he had a year left on his deal. He wasn't training. He had a bit of a bust up with Roberto De Zerbi. So we'll have to see, people, where that's concerned. We all know Tony Bloom is very difficult to do business with. Apparently, the Seagulls have set a price tag on of 50 million on him, people. So we'll have to see, man. You know, he was a legend in Football Manager. We all know his previous exploits at Watford. We're still linked with Gyökeres, people. Fabrizio Romano doesn't think we'll front up the cash. He said, if there are more outgoings, there's some possibilities that Arsenal could add another offensive player. I don't think it would be an expensive player like Gyökeres. I think this is too expensive, but maybe a new winger, a different type of player who can provide fresh energy behind Martinelli and Saka. Now, we've previously heard that Sporting Lisbon are more open to negotiating a fee rather than waiting on clubs to activate his release clause, people. So we'll have to see where Gyökeres is concerned, people. We're still linked with Osimhen. Apparently, PSG are set for a meeting with Julian Alvarez, which could suggest that they're going to take a step back from the Osimhen pursuit. As you know, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Paris Saint-Germain have been primarily linked. It seems like Chelsea could get him if they swap him with Lukaku. Apparently, Napoli cannot afford to keep Osimhen and his 11 million euros per year wages without Champions League football. So why did you give him a new deal? You lot tried to be a bit too smart, and it seems like other clubs are playing the game and waiting for Napoli to fold and budge on their asking price. I was kind of considering leaving that to the end, but we might as well just boost our way to Julian Alvarez, people. Better yet, it's here. Arsenal put on red alert following Pep Guardiola's Julian Alvarez admission. Now, Julian Alvarez has been talking a lot in the media. Likewise, Pep Guardiola has as well. Allegedly, you know, 1 minute you type his name in, he's close to Atletico Madrid, he's close to Paris Saint-Germain, he's staying at Manchester City, or Arsenal are interested in him, people. Apparently, we're monitoring his fallout at Manchester City. We know we've bought players previously from them. Should have really bought Cole Palmer, especially because Smith Rowe's gone. That would have been the closest kind of thing I would have to him, people. So we have to see. You'd imagine, you know, if we are to sign Julian Alvarez, not that we haven't got a budget, but you'd imagine outgoings need to follow where Smith Rowe's concerned. We've committed, you know, 70 million already, making David Raya's deal permanent, as well as Calafiori. You know, when you get the Merino deal sorted for around 30 odd million euros, you're talking about 100 million, and that's before we talk about our attempts of maybe signing a striker or a winger, people. The Gunners were not expecting to make any further big money buys, but that could change if Alvarez is made available. At 24, apparently he ticks the boxes, and obviously he's a serial winner with Argentina and Manchester City. He's won everything there is to offer. He scored 20 goals in just 44 Premier League starts, people. While not always playing up front, you'd imagine they'd make a handsome investment on the 14.1 million pounds they've spent. As stated, PSG, Chelsea, and Atletico are all monitoring him. Unfortunately for him, as much as he's probably valued by the Man City fans and his teammates and the squad and the manager Pep Guardiola, essentially you're always going to be second fiddle of sorts to Haaland. And I know he's played out wide, but I don't know if you're a first choice kind of winger in that regards where Pep Guardiola is concerned. So that's what's going on with Julian Alvarez. Keeping up the theme with strikers, apparently reports in Italy say Arsenal want to sign Victor Osimhen, despite the fact that he has an agreement with PSG which guarantees him a salary significantly higher than that of Arsenal. I mean, he probably would be on big wages. He's on big wages already at Napoli, and whether he joins the Premier League where Arsenal and Chelsea are concerned or goes to PSG, it's going to be a costly investment in which I'm not too sure Arsenal are on it. Reports are also saying Arsenal are moving heavily in the last hours for Victor Osimhen. The striker already has an agreement in place with PSG which guarantees him a significantly higher salary than that of Arsenal. So again, it's going to have to be with sporting stuff. On the Eddie Nketiah front, apparently Arsenal have rejected a new proposal from Marseille. Understand the proposal is in the region of 27 million euros, which is still not considered enough to let Eddie leave. Marseille agreed personal terms with Nketiah, but still no agreement. Now, the one thing I'd say with that is, They've rejected Arsenal based on what Merino is saying. They've rejected 2 proposals. Apparently, we've got an asking price of 30 million. They've bidded 27 million euros. So it seems that the very fact that one, that we're still talking shows that there's a interest from both parties to get this deal done, and also people that they're moving closer. Now, 27 million euros, what's that? About 22, 23, 24 million pounds. Surely you can make the 6 million pounds up with add-ons. Now, of course, we only see transfer fees. We don't know, the whole variables. And what I mean by that is if he gets 10 goals, if we break down the 27 million euros, let's just say of that whole deal, 10 million is if he gets 20 league goals. The next 10 million is if they win the league. I don't know how it works out, but maybe the terms of the deal and the fee is what's lacking, but we're moving closer. And as we know, Eddie Nketiah needs to go somewhere. He's going to play on a more regular basis. We need to buy players, really. And let me know your thoughts, because some fans, it depends where you feel on this. And I think some fans are a bit harsh. I think some fans sit there and say the club get pennies for the players, and then they say we're asking for too much money. Personally, I like the hardline approach, because what's the worst that can happen? What we already are facing, in that a player that doesn't appear to have a future at the club is still here. Romano did updates it and say, understand Arsenal want at least 35 million euros plus a sell-on clause for Nketiah. That's why Arsenal decided to reject the proposal from Marseille as revealed on Friday. No agreement between the clubs so far, and Marseille can now look at new options. Naturally, you'd have to look at new options. We've gone over that with Eddie Nketiah, and reports in France are stating the same thing, people. I mean, for the 25, 26-year-old, if you could get 30 million, I think we're laughing. If you could get 35 million euros plus a sell-on clause, we're laughing, people. So Eddie Nketiah seems to be the one that looks the most closest to leaving, if I'm honest, out of him, Reece Nelson, Aaron Ramsdale. And am I wrong in saying that it seems to have gone incredibly quiet on the Kivio front to Italian clubs? But again, there's still a long way to go in the market. Nico Williams, it seems like he's going to stay at Bilbao. Although Nico Williams has rejected PSG's offer, Barcelona insists they can still sign him this summer. I would love Nico Williams. That would be a statement signing for Arsenal. Keeping up the theme with wingers, Pedro Neto has said, staying at Wolves, I love this club. I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to take this team to another level. He isn't going to say anything different. Yesterday, Gary O'Neill said if there's an offer we can't refuse, it could get done. You would imagine he has an asking price of 50 million. Fair enough. If I was Arsenal or anyone else and they said 50 million, naturally you probably want to drive that down to around 35, 40. You're going to say, yeah, he's a great player. We know he is, but the man can't stay fit. If we couldn't get Nico Williams, which is probably likely, I would bet on Pedro Neto. Team News and Ticks has allegedly said Arsenal haven't completely ruled out Nico Williams yet. Pedro Neto is lower on the list and also has interest from Tottenham. The player would prefer Arsenal. He's a good man in that regard. Romano on Mikel Arteta's contractual situation. We know he's discussing a contract situation that Arsenal expect to be done soon. The Spaniard is really influential in the market for Arsenal together with Edu. Arteta is working a lot behind the scenes in terms of suggesting moves, as he should. You're the manager. It was he who wanted Calafiori as a priority target, and given that he's now at Arsenal, the club clearly did an excellent job. Arteta is also behind this story for Mikel Merino because he knows the player so well and has been monitoring him for a long time. I mean, it sounds great in the modern day, but that's what a manager should do. There is some clubs where managers aren't necessarily given authority over recruitment, but that's what we should do. Give the man the players that he's asking for or suitable backup options, and then it's down to him to succeed or fail. I do think, as much as we can get at the Cronkies, I think in the last few years, for the good and the bad at this club, it's down to Edu, Mikel Arteta and those around them, if I'm honest. Again, when Arteta walked in and he inherited the squad, fair enough, a lot of these guys weren't his players. But whether Mikel Arteta bought these players or or they were at the club prior, nobody is at this football club or hasn't been at this football club in the last 2-3 years, maybe because of anything other than Arteta is utilizing them in that regard. Team News and Ticks has said it's very unlikely Eze will end up at Arsenal. Can't see us spending 60-odd million. We've gone over the Pedro Neto stuff already. There are around 3 clubs who believe Newcastle may still have financial issues. If this is the case, Arsenal may try to sign Bruno in a deal involving Ramsdale. I mean, how much does Ramsdale shave off the price? Because if you're Newcastle, you're saying, cool, that probably shaves us about 30. Arsenal probably going to sit there and say, how can we make a loss? When he signed for this club, people said he's had back-to-back back-to-back relegations, and he had a great couple of years that followed. The only reason he looks like damaged goods is because the first choice option that when we tried to sign him in David Raya became available, and we're running with that really. Bruno Guimaraes is going to cost a lot of money, and the longer the market goes on, there's more of an issue. Are we really going to sign Merino and Guimaraes on top of still having Partey and Jorginho and obviously Declan Rice and Kai Havertz and Fabio Vieira that could play there as well? Whether I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm not saying I don't want it. It doesn't seem like that's what our club look to do. And as one of the reports said earlier, we've already spent 70 million. How much is, Bruno Guimaraes potentially going to cost? Let's assume that Newcastle are broke. They need to sell. Maybe 50, 60, 70, maybe even 80, based on the fact of, when we were linked with him prior, Arsenal and City allegedly were pointing towards his 100 million release clause, which has run out. So I'm not too sure. And that's before we even talk about maybe a striker and a winger. And obviously there's some outgoings, but who really looks to leave this club? Thomas Partey yesterday was linked with Saudi clubs, but we've heard no offers. Eddie Nketiah, you might get 30 odd million. Aaron Ramsdale, unless you loan him out or use him in a swap deal, you can't really see permanent offers coming. Kivio, again, it seems like the Italian links have gone quiet, but even when he was linked with Italian clubs, there were a lot of reports said Arsenal want to, if you do want him on loan, there has to be an obligation to buy, and it seemed like a lot of clubs wanted a buy option or a dry loan. So there's a lot to consider, essentially, people, and obviously it's gone quiet on the Nelson front. Ivan Toney, who it seemed like Arsenal moved away from, and now a bunch of other clubs that, a few months ago couldn't stop talking about how he wants to move away from Brentford. Now, there's still a long way to go in the market. We need to remember Ivan Toney has a year left on his deal, but apparently no club has made an offer for Ivan Toney this summer. As it stands, he's set to stay at Brentford and probably run down his contract, people. I mean, when you take away his penalties, not that I'm saying that his goal record return don't look the best at times. And also, people, he did have a bit of injuries last season. So maybe people want to see him back having a full season before they make a move. Team News and Ticks also said Arsenal are open to letting Zinchenko leave. However, unlikely any club will move for him right now. So we're kind of, to be fair, he's someone that could leave. 2 years left on his deal, 18 months. Obviously, Calafiori, Tomiyasu, Timber, they're all stronger options. But if there's no offers, he's going to have to stay. Romano also said, let me just say that Arsenal are really closing in on the deal for Merino. And let me clarify, the package is going to be something of around 30 million euros. We'll understand in the structure of the deal in the next days. But the agreement between Arsenal and Sociedad is really, really close. Everything is proceeding to the final stages. I mean, until I hear fee agreed, medical booked, it's not the final stages for me, but I'm just talking on YouTube. Maybe these things are happening as we make this video. Big up Cedric Suarez, who's a free agent. And then he's got a new club. Cedric Suarez has been linked with Brazilian club Botafogo, people. So we wish him all the best in that regard. Aaron Ramsdale, expert shocked by fallout. I mean, what's this? He's surprised by the very bad treatment at Arsenal for Ramsdale. I'm sorry, but what bad treatment? I do think Mikel Arteta in the press when we signed Aaron Ramsdale could have maybe handled it a bit better. I do think for both David Raya and Aaron Ramsdale, the talking points about whichever one was or wasn't playing or made a mistake or played good wasn't the best. I don't agree with that. So I do think we could have done better. But this is a football club, not a charity. I'm not saying Aaron Ramsdale is not better than Raya or Raya is not better than him. I think they're kind of in the same kind of bracket. I don't think one's a level above. And I know Aaron Ramsdale is a fan favorite. He's come a long way from when he initially came into the side. He's improved a lot. He was in PFA Team of the Year. But if Mikel Arteta genuinely believes, not just him, anyone, that there's an option to improve upon what he's trying to do, then what are we trying to do here? Again, obviously Saka's our boy and I'm exaggerating, but you look at Saka, Declan Rice and Odegaard. If there's a reality where we could find players that have double their ability and we can sign them, we'd be stupid not to do that, essentially, people. So I think I got done by the title there. We won't get into that, but you lot can let me know your thoughts. I did mention Gary O'Neill speaking about Pedro Neto. It's only right I say what he said. I know how good he is. I know how well he would do at a big club. Obviously, I want our team here to be unbelievably successful, so I'm hoping that he stays. There's nothing going on at this moment from anybody. He's in a good spot. I've spoken to him about how we're going to play and how it suits him and what a big part he'll play in it. But of course, we're all grown-ups. While you're having them conversations, if a massive bid comes from a top club, then no one is going to stand in Pedro's way. But the key word there is if, people. We've been linked with Rabiot. Again, it wouldn't be an Arsenal transfer window, or even Man United, really, if he wasn't linked with Rabiot on a free transfer as speculation over his future concerns. Keeping up the theme with Merino, apparently the player would be delighted to sign for Arsenal, and the Gunners are very keen. His future points to London despite interest from other clubs, people. Apparently he feels he has a thorn in his side from his time at Newcastle. He's played in Newcastle, well, England, Germany, and obviously Spain. Played at the top level for Spain, won a European trophy, done well for Sociedad. I'm sure technically played in the Champions League. Obviously, we were linked with Zubamendi, so we had to have seen what Merino is. 28 years of age, 20, 30 odd million euros, tactically reliable, consistent, versatile, good on the ball, can play in multiple roles. And for me, durability, made over 40 appearances for Sociedad. And I think, you know, if everybody was fit and at their best, I think Thomas Partey and Declan Rice is the first choice pivot. But I think Merino, off the basis of the fact of Partey, it's a very delicate situation. You don't know if he's going to be fit, will become the first choice. And if you can't raise the ceiling, raise the floor. I know he's not a sexy signing. It's not like a Guimaraes, a blockbuster signing, but I'm cool with us signing Mikel Merino. I actually think it's a step in the right direction. Now, Mikel Arteta can be right about things. He can be wrong. He's human. But crucially, if that's what the manager wants and that's how we can address our midfield, which I'm so passionate on improving and stopping to talk about, I'm all for that, if I'm completely honest with you people. But in relation to Julian Alvarez, Mikel Merino, Eddie Nketiah, Pedro Neto, Eze, who else? Gyökeres, Osimhen, Edu's future, Eddie Nketiah, we spoke about everything, but people, I've only got one request, and that is to, well, multiple, but smash the like button for me. Don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know what you would do with a lot of these comments and talking points we've had, people. What do you think is the one position Arsenal can't not improve upon? If you had to, would it be a central midfielder? Would it be a winger? Would it be a striker? So let me know all your thoughts. And on that note, you lot stay safe, stay blessed until we link up again. Peace.